Good evening. We begin tonight with one woman's desperate battle with a deadly infection. The bacterium known as MRSA is uncommonly difficult to fight. Not only has the so-called superbug proved resistant to a wide range of antibiotics, but it also multiplies and evolves so quickly that it adapts to just about any treatment that doctors try to use against it. Infections caused by MRSA now kill more people every year in the United States than AIDS. So what can be done to keep yourself and your family safe? Here's Vicky Mabry.
There's a war between bugs and drugs, and the bugs are winning.
The bugs are bacteria, and Peg McQuarrie is battling them every day. Her weapons are bleach, Lysol, and soap. She can't see the enemy. It's microscopic and millions of years old. Peg is infected with MRSA, a bacterial infection that the CDC says kills 19,000 Americans a year. Last October, it killed a 12-year-old boy in Brooklyn and a high school football player in Virginia. In February, a 20-year-old in Washington died from the infection. He mistakenly thought it was the flu. For Peg McQuarrie, it started 3 years ago on New Year's Eve when she nicked her leg shaving.
2 weeks later, I was sicker than anybody can imagine. Fever, nausea, just fatigued, very badly fatigued. My leg and my ankle swelled to almost 3 times its normal size. Got into the doctor and he said, took one look at it and he said, "Oh my God, Peg, I think this is MRSA."
MRSA or MRSA stands for methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, one of a number of bacterial infections commonly found in hospitals. What's so alarming now is that people like Peg are contracting it outside of hospitals.
Yeah, it's very frightening because everything that you touch has the potential of having that illness on it. Elevator buttons, stairways, your keyboards at work. It's everywhere.
MRSA is becoming so prevalent in communities and so resistant, it's being called a superbug. Who's most susceptible? How do people know when they have a staph infection?
So anyone can get a staph infection. Anyone can get an MRSA infection. The way you tell is typically it's an appearance of a boil. The classic features are there's redness, the skin is warm, it's tender, there may be swelling, and there may be drainage of pus.
After the initial infected injury on Peg's leg, boils began to appear in other places. She's had to have multiple disfiguring surgeries to try to clean out the infection.
It damages muscles, tissues, anything in its path.
Is it permanently in your system now?
It's permanently in your system, yes. And it can lay dormant. Some people never get it again, but some people are like me that, you know, or it's a continuous, and that's what it's been for 3 years.
Before MRSA took over her life, 43-year-old Peg and her husband Dale spent weekends traveling from their home near Sacramento to show their prize Bernese Mountain Dogs for a living. She can't do that anymore. What energy she has is spent keeping her family, including her toddler grandson, safe.
We keep his hands clean. He's only 19 months old, but we wash his hands constantly.
MRSA appearing outside of the hospital has caught doctors by surprise, sometimes causing them to miss the signs. What are your greatest fears concerning MRSA?
That we may eventually lose what drugs we do have is a real concern in treating MRSA infections. We know from the experience in the hospital that this organism, this type of bacteria, is very adept at adapting to any antibiotic that we throw at it.
How many medications have you been on?
Dozens of medications. All of them either gave me severe reactions that sent me to the ER or they just didn't work at all.
Finding an antibiotic that works is not as easy as it used to be. These are organisms whose very DNA is designed for survival.
They can exchange DNA, they can mutate, they can adapt to virtually any pressure that we expose them to, and the most important one now is antibiotics.
As Peg McQuarrie discovered, there are precious few new antibiotics in the pipeline for bugs like MRSA. How many drugs are left that the doctors think they can try for you?
I'm on my very last one right now, and that is the daptomycin. If I become resistant to the daptomycin, we don't know what we're going to do.
Doctors say the misuse and overuse of antibiotics is partially to blame for the superbug's resistance to the drugs. Again, they caution take antibiotics only when you really need them. And amazingly, they say the most effective prevention also happens to be the easiest and most low-tech. Wash your hands often for at least 30 seconds. It's a message Peg McQuarrie has taken to heart.
This is all you need to wash your hands with. You don't
Just
need
plain old soap and water.
plain old soap and water, and wash your counters down, your door handles even with bleach. My biggest arsenal is bleach, and anything that we can bleach, we bleach, from the floors to the ceiling, basically. Whatever's on my hands and I touch, somebody else can come along and touch that. Come on, Dream.
Since we were with Peg a month ago, her infection has flared up again. She's developed more boils and is receiving antibiotics through 2 IV drips. Doctors say she may soon have to be hospitalized.
I hope for her to just be able to have the strength to go back out, show my dogs, do the things that we used to do before I got sick, and just take it one day at a time. Deal with it one day at a time.
I'm Vicki Mabry for Nightline in Roseville, California.